the African American community, the black community, I should say. How do you see this message that is so deep, that has often been so oversimplified, go into the masses? How do you plan to take this movement in a way that will sort of reach people in the way that you have expressed?
I think one of the things that we're attempting to do here is to make us know what we don't know. I think so many times there are assumptions that have been counterproductive to bringing race relations to a better place of healing, assumptions. And so the Reconciled Church is coming to sit down together to talk with each other rather than read about each other and have other people tell us who they are. We're getting to know each other. And unfortunately, it is the turbulence of Baltimore and the flames of Ferguson that have forced us out of our silos, that we might sit down at the table like Jesus said, like he willed for us to do, that we might be one.
I noticed you mentioned trusting in corporate America a little bit more, placing your faith in them instead of the polls. Talk to me a little bit about that.
The reason that I don't think that we can bring about massive change without including corporate America is, first of all, corporate America has some involvement in the political frontier anyway. They're funding the campaigns. They have a lot more power than just corporations. They also have political power. But secondly, and more importantly, they have the key to the common ground of our need for employment, for economic empowerment. And to divorce them from the conversation is to have great policies. That comes from the politicians. Great preaching, that comes from the pulpit. But if we don't have a great opportunity for people to be employed and take care of their families, then we're going to be stuck in the quagmire of the situations that we see before us today.
You mentioned the media and the pulpit being the media for our people, a lot of our people. Is there a distrust that you have of mainstream media? And what are some of the concerns?
I don't know that it's so much of a distrust for mainstream media as much as it is an understanding of the business side of the media, and to understand that it's not necessarily the journalists themselves who really want to do great stories, but it is the business of advertising and advertising dollars and the need to get eyeballs and Nielsen ratings that stop us from getting a true depiction of the middle. We are polarized. And when we are polarized, as we are, by news outlets that focus either on conservatives or liberals, neither side gives you the total picture of what is really going on. And that swayed perspective is causing us to tear apart. Jesus said, a house divided against itself shall not stand. And many times when we only hear from the left or only hear from the right, we're going to tear right down the middle.
What's the long-term plan of the Reconciled Church?
The long-term plan for the Reconciled Church, as I understand it, is not within the organizational fibers of its construct, but it is in the hearts and minds of the people that we seek to serve. We're not trying to create a new entity that replaces the church, but we're trying to remind the church of its corporate responsibilities and what can be accomplished when we get together and drop all of the many reasons we have gathered to dislike each other and come together on the few simple things that are most important that we have in common to unite us. And if we can do that, if we can find 7 things that we care about, like clothing the naked, like feeding the hungry, like raising the bar for healing in our country, then we can galvanize around those things, that I think that the church would be well served to do so.
What are some of the main practical goals? I was talking to a couple of pastors last night, A.R. Bernard, who talked about relationships and how you build trust between the police and the church. What can you say about relationship building? Relationships, first of all, are our greatest resource, and without the building of relationships, the whole deal is over. Whether those are relationships between black and white and brown churches, whether those are relationships between large and small churches, whether those are relationships between the church and the community, between the police and the community, between the elected officials in corporate America. And we are asking the church to be right at the hub of performing the ceremony that brings these marriages, these relationships together, so that we can have a more perfect union. Never will be perfect, but a more perfect union, to find the things that unite us rather than always underscoring the things that divide us. Last question. What are your personal thoughts on what's happening in Baltimore right now?
My heart is broken. I hate it. I can't watch it long on television. I just left Baltimore. And I was just admiring the advances that were being made in downtown Baltimore. And to see Baltimore on fire breaks my heart. It hurt to see Ferguson. And I'm afraid that if we don't get better at communicating, it's going to happen all over America. Because we have been good as Christians about reaching around the world, but we reached over top of communities right in our own city.
Thank you.
Thank you.